What if the truest reality isn't something you can think about, but something you can actually feel? Today, we're diving into a pretty revolutionary idea from the philosopher Henri Bergson, one that challenges centuries of thinking and suggests that maybe, just maybe, the deepest truths aren't found in logic, but in art. So, let's start with a little thought experiment to get us going. When you think back on a really amazing day, what feels more real to you? Is it that static, frozen picture you snapped on your phone? Or is it that continuous, unbroken feeling of joy that kind of flows through you as you remember it? That very difference, that's right at the heart of what we're talking about today. To really get why Bergson's idea was such a bombshell, we've got to first look at what he was arguing against. And that was a philosophical tradition that for centuries basically preferred perfect, timeless statues over the messy, flowing river of actual life. Yeah, for literally thousands of years, the big idea was that our world, the one that's full of time and change and all that movement, was just a flawed, temporary copy of some higher, perfect reality. This perfect place was supposed to be eternal, totally unmoving, and fundamentally more real than anything we could ever experience. This right here captures that classic divide perfectly. On the left, you've got the traditional view of reality, eternal, unchanging, perfect. Then on the right, you have our actual world of experience, which is all about time, flow, and, well, imperfection. For ages, philosophy told us, hey, focus on the left column. The stuff on the right, that's just a shadow. So how did Henri Bergson come back at this? Well, he didn't just disagree a little bit. He completely flipped this entire tradition on its head. He argued that the river of our experience wasn't the shadow, it was the real deal. Bergson's big, bold move was to claim that the thing that is most real is the very thing philosophers since Plato had called unreal, time itself. He said we need to get back to the immediate, authentic feel of our own experience, which isn't made of static things, but of a constant, nonstop flow. And he gave this experience a special name, durée, or duration. Now, this isn't clock time, tick-tock, tick-tock, a bunch of separate moments strung together. Nope. Durée is our inner sense of time as the seamless, indivisible flow, where the past just kind of melts into the present and pushes us toward the future. It's way more like a melody than a string of individual notes. And this is where Bergson makes it super personal. He's not talking about some lofty, abstract theory. You already know durée is real because you are durée. It's the very flow of your own consciousness, a reality you just get intuitively from the inside out. Okay, but wait. If this flowing reality is so fundamental, why don't we feel it all the time? Well, Bergson pointed his finger at a culprit that every single one of us uses every single day: language. So here's the problem. Language works by using these common, general labels for everything. Think about it. We have one word, love, to try and describe a million unique individual feelings. We have one word, sadness, for a flow of emotion that is never, ever the same twice. Language basically takes what's unique and squishes it into a conventional box. This whole process actually hides reality from us. First, you have your unique, flowing experience. Then language comes along and just slaps a general label on it. And by doing that, it freezes that dynamic flow into a static, solid concept. Kind of like taking a single photograph of a raging river. And in that one snapshot, the movement, the real life of the moment, it's just gone. So this is the big takeaway here. Bergson believed the very tool we use to communicate about reality, language, ends up building a wall around it. It creates this crust of conventional ideas that covers up the authentic, flowing experience that's happening underneath. Okay, so if language traps us, how in the world do we break free? This brings us to Bergson's amazing and kind of surprising conclusion about the true purpose of art. You could say, if language is the prison, then the artist is the one holding the key. For Bergson, art is basically our escape hatch. It's our way of cracking through that crust of language. He believed that artists, and he was a huge fan of poets in particular, have figured out how to subvert the very nature of words to get us back to the flowing reality of durée. So how do they do it? They rebel. Instead of just using words as these simple, see-through labels, poets focus on the materiality of language itself. The sound, the rhythm, the actual texture of the words. They treat words not just as signs pointing to things, but as unique objects that can create a whole new experience of time in the reader. They express that flow, not just some static idea. And this leads to an absolutely radical idea. If the whole point of philosophy is to grasp reality, but our main tool, language, keeps getting in the way, then maybe the highest form of philosophy isn't a logical argument. Maybe it's a poem, a work of art that doesn't just tell you about reality, but actually makes you experience it. All right, let's bring this all together. What does Bergson's philosophy really mean for how we understand ourselves and the world we're living in? Ultimately, it really boils down to this fundamental conflict. On one side, you've got the world as our intellect sees it, general, abstract, and static. And on the other side, you've got our direct experience, individual, concrete, and always, always flowing. Bergson's whole revolution was to tell us to trust what's on the right. And that leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to take away. If our primary tool for reason, language, always falls short of capturing the true flowing nature of existence, does that mean the deepest truths aren't something to be found in an argument, but something to be felt in a work of art? It's a question that totally redefines not just reality, but the whole purpose of human creativity itself.